It isn't every day we think about the logistics of ruling one of the largest land empires in history. When you hear the name Genghis Khan, what comes to mind? Fearless cavalry charging across the steppe? Cities falling to his army? Sure, those stories are legendary, but let me tell you about something just as incredible. Imagine a postal system so advanced for its time that it spanned from Europe to Asia, enabling communication and control over an empire that stretched across 24 million square kilometers. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? Well, not for the Mongols. This is the story of the Yam, a secret powerhouse behind the Mongol Empire's relentless success. Genghis Khan understood that brute force and conquest were just the beginning. To truly govern an empire, he needed communication to be faster than rebellion. The Yam wasn't just a postal system. It was the lifeblood of the Mongol Empire, a sprawling relay network created to ensure messages and sometimes individuals moved faster than anyone thought possible in the 13th century. Let's lay it out. In a world with no cars, no airplanes, no telegraphs, the Mongols devised a system where couriers could cover up to 200 miles every single day. That's faster than most people today can commute to work in heavy traffic. So, how did they pull it off? Let's zoom in. Picture the vast Mongol Empire. Now overlay it with a grid of relay stations. These were waypoints scattered about every 25 to 30 miles. At each station, fresh horses and supplies awaited the couriers. All they'd have to do was arrive, swap out their tired horse for a fresh one, grab any necessary provisions, and take off again, at full gallop. And here's the kicker. These stations weren't just for military orders, though that was an obvious priority. Spies, tribute collectors, merchants, and even scholars used the Yam to crisscross this enormous hemisphere. Every courier on this network carried something vital, a small metal medallion called a paisa. Think of it as their golden passport. This medallion wasn't just a shiny piece of jewelry, it was powerful. It gave them the authority to demand what they needed from the local stations, be it horses, food, or even accommodations for the night. The Mongol authorities had made it clear. If a courier stopped at your station and flashed their paisa, you obeyed. Refusing to help? That wasn't an option. Not if you valued your safety under Mongol rule, but this wasn't a slapdash operation. The Yam was a staggering logistical feat. Each station, or urtu as the Mongols called them, was strategically placed to ensure maximum efficiency. Couriers didn't ride for long distances like lone wolves. Instead, fresh riders and horses were constantly cycling through, ensuring speed and endurance. And yes, this meant countless communities across the empire were responsible for maintaining these stations, feeding the horses, housing the couriers, stocking supplies. But it came with benefits. These same communities reaped rewards because their proximity to the Yam often facilitated trade, cultural exchange, and even protection. Now we know what you're thinking. This system wasn't just practical, it was genius, and you're absolutely right. But where did it come from? Well, we can thank Genghis Khan himself. As brilliant a military strategist as he was, he understood that brute force and conquest were just the beginning. To truly govern an empire, he needed communication to be faster than rebellion. Orders had to reach generals in weeks, not months. Tax records had to flow reliably back to the center of power. And most importantly, information, the pulse of any empire, had to move as predictably as a heartbeat. With the Yam in place, the Mongols constantly outmaneuvered their enemies. Picture it. An army general miles from headquarters receives an urgent order to cut off an advancing enemy. A message that moments later reaches other units, creating a near instantaneous chain reaction across the battlefield. It was their secret weapon. Lightning-fast communication kept the Mongol war machine one step ahead of everyone else. But here's the twist. The Yam wasn't just about war. Far from it. This network also became a bridge for cultures, ideas, and even diplomacy. Marco Polo, the famous Venetian merchant and traveler, had a front-row seat to witness the Yam during his time in the Mongol court. He marveled at its efficiency, describing it in detail in his writings. He compared it to the veins of the empire, spreading lifeblood to every part of the vast Mongol territories. Letters, decrees, messages, they weren't just orders of conquest. They were tools of connection, allowing rulers from China to Persia to Russia to stay in sync. Let's pause for a moment and step back from the logistics. Think about the big picture here. Through the Yam system, the Mongols weren't just maintaining their empire. They were fostering what can only be described as one of history's earliest networks of globalization. Travelers who utilized the system exchanged ideas, innovations, and cultural practices. Religions traveled with missionaries, philosophies crossed borders, and inventions moved faster than they ever had before. The Mongols might not have set out to create an early version of the internet, but their Yam network came pretty close. As incredible as it was, the Yam wasn't just a Mongol triumph. It set the stage for how empires to come would think about logistics and communication. Remember the famed Pony Express in the 19th century American West? It wasn't the first of its kind. Genghis Khan's Yam had already set the gold standard centuries earlier. So, what happened to this revolutionary system? Like many aspects of the Mongol Empire, the Yam began to deteriorate as the empire fractured into smaller khanates after Genghis Khan's death. It became increasingly difficult to maintain consistency across such sprawling, diverse territories. Local rulers tried to replicate it, but lacked the singular vision and unified authority of the early Mongol rulers. Still, the legacy of the Yam lives on. It's a reminder that the Mongol Empire wasn't just about conquest, it was about innovation. It wasn't just a force of destruction, it was a force of connection. The relay stations might have crumbled, the couriers long since forgotten, but the idea, the understanding that information and communication shape the world, remains as powerful today as it was 800 years ago. The next time you zip off an email, send a text, or hop on a video call, spare a thought for the ancient Mongol couriers galloping under starlit skies, armed with nothing but a paisa and the determination to get the message through. Because in a way, they're part of the history that led us to this moment of global connectivity. Genghis Khan's Yam wasn't just an empire builder, it was a world changer.